Ever since Uncharted Drake's Fortune released on the PlayStation 3 back in 2007, Naughty Dog's pulp adventure series has been consistently raising the bar on video game storytelling, graphics, and sound with each new entry. Starring Nathan Drake, the charismatic, wisecracking treasure hunter who goes on adventures to exotic locations filled with tense shootouts, puzzles, and high-stakes platforming. And somehow, Drake always manages to get the girl. Since its humble beginnings, Uncharted blurred the lines between video games and film. With all of the makings of a Hollywood summer blockbuster already in place, an Uncharted movie adaptation was a given, though its journey to the big screen has been anything but a walk in the park.
Ah, crap.
The movie's cursed 13-year development began all the way back in 2008, before Tom Holland was even a teenager. With all the time that Uncharted spent in development hell, there have been more versions of the Uncharted movie than there have been games. This is the story of those Uncharted movies, the ones that we didn't get to see. Welcome to Canceled Video Game Movies, Uncharted. Hold on, before we get here, let's jump back to 2008. Uncharted Drake's Fortune had just come out the year prior, and it was one of the fledgling PlayStation 3's first big hits. Its success meant that Nathan Drake's first outing certainly wasn't going to be his last. Naughty Dog began working on the follow-up to Drake's Fortune, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. However, on the other side of the entertainment spectrum, Hollywood mega producer and former CEO of Marvel Studios, Avi Arad, had just helped to release a little movie called Iron Man, officially kicking off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His next move? To have his production studio translate Marvel's success to video games, beginning with a film adaptation of Uncharted Drake's Fortune.
Oh, so now you're interested, huh?
Arad Productions and Sony formed a joint partnership to bring Drake to the big screen. Speaking at the time, Avi's grandson, Ari Arad, shed some light on the original vision for the Uncharted movie. In the game, the action moves very quickly to the island, but the film will open things up a bit and add some depth before the island adventure. In addition, the film will explore some of the modern-day piracy that's going on today in South America. Initially, the film's script was going to be written by Kyle Ward. If you've watched this series before, he may sound familiar, since he was the writer of the failed Kane and Lynch movie. However, the deal with Ward quickly fell through due to scheduling conflicts, so instead, Uncharted would be penned by writing duo Thomas Dean Donnelly and Joshua Oppenheimer, who worked on 2005's Sahara and the Conan the Barbarian reboot from 2011. Naughty Dog and Sony seemed to be happy with how the film was shaping up, but its most important piece was still missing. It still needed its Nathan Drake. Shortly after the film's announcement in 2010, Firefly's Nathan Fillion expressed interest in the role, with fans agreeing that his look and attitude would be a perfect match for Drake. So Fillion did the only logical thing he could do. He started a Twitter campaign to really get that point across, with tweets like Nathan Fillion for Nathan Drake over and over again and 2 words, Nathan goddamn Fillion. His legion of fans answered the call by spamming the good word of Nathan on every entertainment website that had a comment section. However, the campaign fell on deaf ears. To the dismay of many, Fillion has never been involved in the Uncharted movie in any kind of official capacity. At least, there's no information available that I can find to say otherwise. The most likely explanation of why he wouldn't be considered is simply this. Nathan Fillion isn't an A-list movie star with the box office draw that Uncharted needed. But that didn't stop him from being involved in an unofficial capacity.
Fellas?
So let's jump ahead a little bit here. After years of being seemingly ignored by the powers that be, Fillion made Uncharted on his own. In July 2018, a surprise Uncharted fan film popped up on YouTube, starring Nathan Fillion as Nathan Drake, and it's pretty awesome. The short proves that Fillion most definitely has the chops to play Drake, right down to his signature phrase.
Oh, crap.
Was this Fillion's last-ditch effort to be cast in the movie, similar to how Ryan Reynolds got the green light for Deadpool, or was it simply for the fans? I don't know, but it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it before. Anyway, back to 2010. Right around the same time as Fillion's Twitter campaign, Uncharted's initial pair of writers were replaced by Oscar winner David O. Russell, who was going to not only rewrite the script, but direct the film as well. O. Russell's Drake was slated to be an actor that he had worked with before in the movie The Fighter, Mark Wahlberg. In addition, 2 more A-list stars signed onto the project: Robert De Niro as Drake's father and Joe Pesci as Uncle Drake. Yeah, you know, Uncle Drake, remember him in the games? Wahlberg stated that filming would likely begin sometime in early 2011, aiming for a 2012 release. However, even though O. Russell's Uncharted was based on the first game, it strayed a bit too far from the source material for Sony's liking. This version of Uncharted would have seen the Drakes as a family of treasure hunters. It would focus on Drake's extended family and put them in fraught, globe-trotting situations with some of the world's most influential people. Fans weren't too happy with this divergence from the source material, and neither was Sony, who called it too long and too different. Unable to find common ground, O. Russell abandoned Uncharted in 2011 to make Silver Linings Playbook, taking Wahlberg and company with him. O. Russell went on to achieve 8 Oscar nominations with Silver Linings, while Sony was left back at square one. And now Uncharted's insane descent into development hell truly begins.
Oh, no. Okay, now I'm screwed.
After O. Russell's departure, Limitless director Neil Burger was hired to fill his shoes. Mainly, we're beginning from scratch and going back to the video game. It's really one of the most cinematic video games, and one that has really developed characters. So, you know, there's a lot of cool, really intense things that, if they work for the film's story, I want to use them. Burger's Uncharted never received an official cast reveal, but it was heavily rumored that Bradley Cooper would take on the half-tucked shirt mantle of Nathan Drake. Burger's involvement lasted for about a year, until he left in 2012 to make the movie Divergent. Now, with Burger out, Naughty Dog reportedly asked Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg numerous times to take over Uncharted. They've been asking us to write it for years. The duo declined because the movie is just gonna be Indiana Jones.
Did you know all the artifacts here are stolen? They belong in a museum.
So instead, the scribes behind National Treasure were hired in August 2012, Marianne and Cormac Wibberley. This is script rewrite number 4 if you're keeping count. Seth Gordon was hired to direct, and with him came a rewrite of the Wibberley script from David Guggenheim. The frontrunners for Drake this time around were Chris Hemsworth, Mark Wahlberg, and Channing Tatum. If you're interested, the Guggenheim script ended up leaking online, thanks to the same Sony Pictures hack that revealed details about the canceled BioShock movie. I'm not going to go over it here, but it's out there if you know where to look. We know from leaked emails that Sony wanted some changes to the Guggenheim script. They wanted Uncharted to be less of a buddy movie that would focus on Drake's story, with Drake's relationship with Elena taking center stage in the plot. In November 2014, the Hurt Locker writer Mark Bull was brought on for rewrite number 6. After he blew up into superstardom from Guardians of the Galaxy, Chris Pratt was in talks to play Drake, but he reportedly declined. Production was set to begin in early 2015, with a release date of summer 2016, until director Seth Gordon abruptly left the movie in June 2015. Sony said it was pushing for a new creative direction. Uncharted sank back into development hell and sat dormant for a few months, until late 2016 when Joe Carnahan and Sean Levy were hired to write and direct respectively. Now things get weird. Carnahan's Uncharted rewrite number 7 really seemed to lean into Drake's mass murderer tendencies, because it was aiming for a hard R rating, with foul-mouthed language and the f***ing craziest action scenes. Carnahan said he wanted to do this in order to distance Uncharted from Indiana Jones. They're gonna be looking at real booby traps, not rolling boulder bullshit. Believe it or not, it's a variation of this script that the final movie is actually based on. Tom Holland signed on in May 2017, and the script was touched up by Rafe Judkins, presumably to tone it down and get Uncharted to a PG-13 rating. Just as production was about to start, director Sean Levy left Uncharted to make Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, at least with the script seemingly in a good place. Dan Trachtenberg was hired to direct, and a release date is set of December 18th, 2020. Just as production is about to begin, you guessed it, director Trachtenberg exits. Travis Knight is briefly hired to replace him, but he's unable to work with Tom Holland's packed schedule. Knight exits the project, and the December 2020 release date is postponed, until Uncharted finally landed with the director that it has today, Ruben Fleischer. Wahlberg came full circle, and he was hired to play Sully. After at least 8 different scripts and 13 years of everything going wrong, principal filming for Uncharted wrapped on October 29th, 2020. It is currently scheduled to kick off the PlayStation Cinematic Universe when it hits theaters on February 18th, 2022. Like I've said in the past, I still won't believe it until I'm actually sitting in a theater watching it. Even though the movie isn't out yet, and Tom Holland has already publicly sandbagged it, it's still up in the air if Uncharted will be worth the wait. But in my opinion, unless this thing is like a Best Picture winner or something, I'm gonna say no. Even though Sony has to see some massive potential in this movie. It's very rare for a film to go through even half the issues that this one went through and still manage to come out. I gotta give Sony some credit there. They showed some incredible perseverance sticking with it. Anyway, are you excited for the movie, or do you think maybe it could have been better if they stuck with an older script? Personally, I'm hopeful, even though I still wish this would have come out like a decade ago with Nathan Fillion in the lead. I guess we'll see how it turns out. As always, thank you for watching, and see you next time.